Hello friends, this is Kardec Radio at 11 p.m. nourishing our souls as we march towards a beautiful last session of Illuminated Prayers. We have been studying for 38 days Illuminated Prayers. Prayers that have been disclosed by André Luiz in his books. The prayers of high mentors who come to us in different occasions to show how prayers are vital in our lives, how they can be life-changing, and not only life-changing, but prayers in which we can learn a whole lot. If we recapped since the first book, Nosso Lar. Today we're studying and life goes on. We're gonna see that André Luiz reports to us the prayers of these mentors, always in a humble tone, always valuing the greatness of God. And I would say, in our observation, we don't practice much worshipping of God. And I think it's because in previous lives we have incurred in so many mistakes, abusing religiosity, spirituality, that in this life many people are distancing themselves from those feelings of religiosity because they are afraid, unconsciously afraid, of incurring in the same mistakes. But at some point, we need to reset, begin anew, and love to feel the greatness of God and observe the infinite goodness of God and feel the loving providence of God. Of all André Luiz books, And Life Goes On is different. In Emmanuel's own words, it's a book that was psychographed by Chico Xavier in, I'll give you the precise date, 1968. André Luiz simply says, we honor the first centennial of Genesis by Allan Kardec. It was a tribute on April 18th, 1968. But in Emmanuel's preface of the book, And Life Goes On, and Life Goes On, right? He says, dear reader, we're not writing this either to introduce or heap praise on André Luiz, the friend who has made himself worthy of our sympathy and gratitude for the consoling and constructive pages that he has been sending from the spiritual world to the physical. Okay? However, regarding matters of life post-mortem, it would be fair to say that in this volume, And Life Goes On, André Luiz brings information that is different from what he garnered in Nosso Lar. So, the characters are real, but what is the big deal about the book, And Life Goes On? First of all, it's the only book that talks about the happenings in the city of São Paulo instead of in the city of Rio de Janeiro. Just physically speaking, this is a curiosity. The setting is in the city of São Paulo, okay? Still, says Emmanuel. He says, these characters' experiences are much different than those that describe André Luiz's own pathway during his first experiences in the spirit world. And this would lead us to consider that levels of knowledge and responsibility vary infinitely. Levels of knowledge and responsibility vary to the infinite. In fact, the planes of existence for the inhabitants of the beyond are personalized in many different ways And life for each one is invariably individualized according to their mental condition. This is understandable. The greater the learning of an incarnate spirit, the more painful the results of time wasted. Pause. Emmanuel is reminding us that if I know this much and I mess up, it's gonna be more difficult for me, especially if I wasted my time. Read the book The Messengers again. We're gonna see how the waste of time impacts on us. And what is a waste of time? Let us outline. Since this is Saturday, tomorrow is Sunday, usually days in which we feel entitled to doing nothing. Many people. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Waste of time, doing nothing. But Vanessa, I work so hard during the week. I want to do nothing on Sunday. And question, according to the law of the mental field, in the book Mechanisms of Mediumship, André Luiz says, we attract what we emit. If I am emitting, I want to do nothing. Which kind of spirits are we attracting? The busy bees of the spiritual realm are the superior spirits. They don't stop. Who are the lazy ones? The inferior spirits. If we want to do nothing, don't forget, at that moment we're opening the door of our home to those who don't want to do nothing either. But Vanessa, can't I ever relax? Yes, but with wisdom. Animals, like a dog, they don't plan on relaxing. They're always like down, like a dog. They turn around, 1, 2, 3, sleep. You call them, they come. And then if nobody calls them, they sleep. Or they lay down. That's okay for dogs, for animals, but not for us. I plan. I wake up. Take it easy, right? Easy like Sunday morning. But what about the people who are in need? Shouldn't we spend our time helping them out? I'm not saying the whole day, but part of our day. Do something good, beneficial to others. Use your Sunday. Dedicate part of your Sunday at least to helping people who are in need. Whether they are in need psychologically, physically, spiritually. But doing nothing unless you're sick. And then you have to rest. And yet, inside of our minds, I can use that physical rest to do what? To boost my faith, my hope, my opening my heart, cleansing the heart, right? So the greater the learning, says Emmanuel, of an incarnate spirit, the more painful the results of time wasted. The more rebellious an individual is before the truth, the more grievous the consequences of his or her own stubbornness. We observe then that society after death reflects the customs it cultivated while on earth. So, we will only reaffirm the fact that after our passage into the spiritual world, we will find our own spiritual portrait in the situations we forged, either rewarding us for the good that they produce or the evil they establish. Thus, let us read André Luiz's new book with the certainty that in its pages we'll be startled to find many pieces of our own story in space and time, urging us to meditate and examine ourselves, realizing that life goes on filled with hope and work, progress and achievement in every sector of cosmic life, in keeping with good laws. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Emmanuel is amazing. He's always amazing. He orchestrated his works through Chico Xavier with the spirit guides of the beyond as well. Amazing. So Emmanuel is saying that the book And Life Goes On is different. It brings us different aspects. We're going to see ourselves there, and that's very important, because once we see ourselves there, we can shape ourselves up, examine, know ourselves, and refine ourselves out. A beautiful sculpting process for the soul. That's, by the way, the reason why these spirits brought these teachings through our dear Andre Lewis, to sculpt our minds, to make it look beautiful vibrationally. Seeking the good, right? I see here beautiful friends before I begin the chapter that is going to wrap up this series of Illuminated Prayers. Carol Correa, thank you very much. Always. Paula, thank you so much for being here. Sunshine is here. And we see Karina Liz. Big hug to you, Karina. Tissa, how have you been? Matthew Mills. Thank you, Matthew, for being with us. Sol Souza. Lisa Teles. How have you been, Celia Lancaster? Lívia Moraes. Big hug to you, Lívia. Daisy, super hug to you, Daisy. Antônio Lopes, how have you been? Aileen Gonzalez, big hug to you, Ernesto and the whole family. Chris Anastasia, super hug to you. Betsy, big hug. Are you ready? Yes, this is the last series of Illuminated Prayers. But let me share something with you. As I was doing a search on the word prayer in the book And Life Goes On, I found out that in 27 occasions, Andre Luiz describes different moments in which the people in the story were using their prayers. Forgive me. And he says, prayers like mute prayers, like silent prayers. Or somebody was doing a prayer in different occasions. But he wraps up the book in 26 chapters. In the last chapter, the final paragraphs, he discloses the words of the prayer. This book, And Life Goes On, is the story of Evelyn or Evelina and Ernest or Ernesto. They meet in the physical plane at the hospital. Both of them have the same condition. Ernesto was older than Evelina. Evelina was quite young, though married as well. She loved her husband, and they were preparing themselves, being prepared to be operated upon. The first chapters talk about a conversation between them, and then later they find themselves in a different setting. And the beauty of the story is that Andre Lewis describes to us what happens to people who never think about spirituality, or who think just a little bit, find themselves dead, not knowing that they are dead, quote unquote dead. And then they little by little discover, oh, we died, but we didn't die. It's so funny. The first chapters of the book shows to us the drama, beautiful. It's almost like a suspense, like, ooh, they go in and they're like, this is an interesting hospital. Oh, everybody's so nice. But they don't explain us. They don't tell us where our family is. What's happening here? So they start talking to people. It's so beautiful, showing to us that that's the way it is. You think everybody who discarnates know that they discarnated? No. And that's sad, because they may be here wandering or elsewhere wandering and not happy at all. So that's why it's always worthwhile thinking about life. Death is just a gateway of transition. It's not a bad thing, though we still need to make peace with death. Make peace with death. Since we're studying Illuminated Prayers, the mentors today, Mentor Joseph, is proposing to us that the exercise that we do is called Make Peace with Death. But why, Mentor Joseph? And he says, because people will only live at peace in life if they make peace with death. Those who run away from death, who are afraid of death, who hate death, who shoo it away, or who long for death as if they are suicidal, they don't do well in life. Only those who are friends with death, who understands the beauty of that transition, they are capable of living a healthy life, because they understand the continuum of life. In a scale 0 to 10, let us assess ourselves. Where are we regarding being at peace with death? When we think of our death or the death of loved ones, is it like, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid, don't talk about it. Oh, don't talk about the loved ones. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Is it nerve-wracking? 0. Or is it like, oh well, it's part of life, and it's just the doorway back to the spiritual realm full time? How about that? Huh? Carol Correa is asking, how can we become better friends with death? Mentor Joseph. How can we become better friends? By doing what we're doing, Carol. By studying these books and seeing how beautiful those moments are. When we transition back, it's time. It's like graduation. I know students who are about to graduate and they're like, oh no, I would like to stay with this class for the rest of my life. They don't like graduation, because graduation represents responsibility, changes, maturity, progress to the level that we need to move on, and we need a certain level of detachment. So learning how to detach, learning how the beauty of the spiritual life, seeing ourselves as spirits every day, we are practicing this beautiful relationship with death. And I don't say death as an entity, but as a doorway, like a butler in life, opening the door for our real life. If we are in good terms with our conscience here, we will love death. You want to know more about this? Tomorrow, Sunday, June 2nd, at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, our friend Sunshine is going to begin a series of studies based on the second part of the book, Heaven and Hell, the cases of the spirit. By studying those cases, we have a good opportunity to making friends with death, okay? So mark your calendar, be present, and if you miss it at that time, don't worry, watch it on demand. Thank you, Kara, for raising this important question and helping us all reflect on the mechanisms, okay? So, throughout this beautiful book and life goes on, Sunshine says it's one of her preferred books. No doubt about it. There's a movie that was done about this, and you can buy it at Amazon.com, and Life Goes On, and it has caption in English. It's very interesting. It brings the summary of it all. So, in the last chapter of the book, the title is "And Life Goes On" in that chapter. And Andre Luiz describes how the stories of these people, the characters, unfolded with the help of the beyond. Beautiful. We learn that central characters, like also in the story, Evelyn and Ernesto, were helping from the beyond the families they left on earth. And we see at the beginning of this chapter this beautiful acclamation of a spirit, Tullio, who is about to reincarnate, and he's getting to know of his mother, future mother, who is married to his future father, whom he knows, who killed him in a previous life. So he's now acclimating himself with Vera, his future mother. And I will describe a little bit. As Tullio watched from the spiritual realm, Vera, the future mother, sewing, Tullio immediately felt drawn to her. He noticed her gentle face, the serene eyes. Enchanted, he took in the peaceful atmosphere. Evelina, who was in the beyond helping Tullio, suggested that he embraced his future mother. And it was after that Vera, who is incarnated, thought, how I would love to have a son, how I would long to be a mother. She was waiting for this blessing from the Almighty, etc., etc. So the beginning of the chapter talks about the preparation for a reincarnation and many other beautiful aspects, including the adoption of a baby, showing to us that adoption is as planned out as biological pregnancies. So, suggestion to those who adopt. If you adopt, either you embrace your child as your own or you don't. Yeah, we know, we acknowledge the biological parents, but once you adopted, you embraced it. Why am I saying this? Because I know parents who adopted their children and they keep using that fact to emotionally control their children, to make them feel like crippled. As if like, you see, you owe me so much because I adopted you. That's not charitable. So if you adopt, it's yours. It's yours. And in this chapter 26 of the book And Life Goes On, it explains to us how these things happen. It's your child. So it's it. That's it. Oh, my adopted child. Either it's your child or it's not. Spiritually speaking, it's your child. And then when we get to know why they ended up in our arms, we're going to get to know that we owe them a whole lot. Right, Regina? Big hug to you. The mother of Quero Correia is here. Super hug to her, friends. She's the most adorable. Right, Regina? Big hug to you. Super hug. Hello, Nora Brazil. So, if we embrace. So, Ernesto and Evelina worked so hard with the spirits, other spirits, to make those friends, the family members, organize their lives. They worked very hard. And what happened next? What happened next? At the end of this book, our dear Andrea Lewis reports to us, they made it. Evelina and Ernest made it to fulfill their mission. They are not illuminated spirits in this book. They are just people who want to regenerate themselves by helping their family. Right? We agree, Karina Alice. Thank you, Regina, for giving us Carol Correa. She's an angel. We agree. Thank you, Regina. And the Father, because he's also amazing. So, here we are. They ended the mission. What happened next? I will read to you. It's the last page. In that evening, visualize it, a small flying carriage, not like miniature. I'm just saying small, but it's big. In the shape of an iridescent star, dropped Ernesto and Evelina off in their spiritual colony. They both headed for the Institute of Spiritual Watch Care, where caring and friendly souls showered them with flowers. Mark it down. Flowers. Have you observed that in all of Andrea Lewis' books, they pray, petals of flowers come down. Anything they do, flowers are present. Flowers. Let's think about this. Lamp posts lit with polychromic light circled all the buildings, highlighting their architectural lines in splashes of beauty. The place was celebrating the two workers who, with devotion and humility, had managed to overcome all the initial difficulties in the construction of a blessed future. Surrounded by advisors, Instructor Ribas greeted them at the door, and embracing them like beloved children, Instructor Ribas lifted up his eyes on high and prayed. Are you ready for the prayer? This is the prayer to bless those who fulfill their mission and are now going to begin a new phase in their lives. So as we are also completing this work of the Illuminated Prayers at Kardec Radio, after 38 days, let us also pray feeling the blessings of the superior spirits. Instructor Ribas says, prayerful moment. Lord Jesus, bless your servants who consecrate themselves to each other today in sublime union, because they were like committing themselves, almost like in spiritual marriage in the beyond. Illuminate evermore their yearnings for your kingdom through the selflessness that has helped them forget difficulties and offenses, focusing only on assisting their companions of the journey, even when such companions struck them in the heart. O Master, teach them that happiness is an ongoing endeavor, that a marriage must be renewed every day in the domestic intimacy of a home, where our faults are extinguished through mutual tolerance, so that our souls may find perfect unity before you in the light of love eternal. The instructor finished while Ernesto contemplated Evelina's tear-drenched face. Small garlands of blue flowers raining down above like etherealized, radiant sapphires, providing the happy couple the certainty that the higher realms were endorsing their vows. From hidden corners of the surroundings came soft melodies, framed with words of trust, in which the wisdom of the universe confirmed the eternity of God's mercy on life as it goes on everywhere, beautiful, full of greatness, sanctified by labor, and flooded with light. Let's go back to the prayer. Why do we commit ourselves to being united with somebody, whether incarnated or discarnated, to be together? We could have a long conversation about marriage. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, there is a specific chapter about marriage and divorce. And we find out that many people marry out of convenience. Oh, we are friends, we have good jobs. Yeah, we get along. He's rich, she's beautiful. Or she's rich, he's handsome. If these are the reasons, we're gonna fail. I'm lonely. She's my company, or he's my companion. It's not gonna work. And that's why many marriages fail. So, Instructor Rebus is asking us to revisit, and in a wise prayer to Jesus, because Jesus is the divine representative on earth. He's saying that Ernesto and Evelina succeeded because they didn't hold grudges, they forgot offenses, difficulties, and helped everyone in their mission. Now they are committing themselves, exchanging vows, because they want to continue working together as in a marriage. And he says, happiness is an ongoing endeavor. Both sides. But we have to say something here. On earth, as Jesus says in the book Good News by Humberto de Campos through Chico Xavier, men are often weak, and women are always suffering, or the sufferers. Why is Jesus saying this? Because it's true. We still allow the masculine on earth to be brutal. We're changing, but we still think that to be a man, we train our boys to be warriors. They're just born, we start giving them cars. It's like about speed and racing and guns and games and battles. Just go through a Walmart session, in the toy session, you'll be shocked. I know we're changing, but if you have a girl, you'll see how far we are. Because girls like, oh, we have these cute little dolls, cute everything. And boys, it's like ugly things, battles, guns. So then we're training the boys to be a disaster. We don't polish them. We think, you're a boy, come on, you're strong, you hit, you curse, you kick, you scream, you run, because you're a boy. Boy, we will always be boys. And this is not about a feminine discourse. Though, if you go to the book, Our Daily Bread by Emmanuel, there is one lesson titled Christianity, the Gospel and Women. And in there, Emmanuel states, Jesus was the first feminist on earth, valuing women to levels we don't. And we were gonna say more. Nowadays, people are raising more of the flags of respecting homosexuals, transsexuals, transgender people than respecting women. And we won't be able to respect anybody until we respect women. And I'm not saying this because I'm a woman, but because that's the way we observe as a psychologist, as a teacher, as a mother, as a citizen. Somebody has to talk about it. And our spiritist movement is very chauvinistic. Because majority of the spiritist workers in our movement are women. But when it comes to praising the speakers, we end up praising the men. Why? There's a lot of reasons. And we need to be careful. Because we may be incurring in a lot of mistakes. And when we talk about spiritism, we cannot undermine men or women. Recently I was in Brazil, and I was in several spiritist centers, and I saw in a center a spiritist speaker making jokes that are allowed in the Brazilian culture, undermining women, but it's not appropriate. We really need to come to this level. You see that Mentor Ribas, he brings his prayer beyond men and women, etc. He talks about the union and the equanimity in this union. He doesn't say you as a man, Ernesto, because at the end of the day, it's beyond that, especially when we are discarnated, which is the real life. Mutual tolerance. It's an exercise. Go to the book, Thought in Life, and we're gonna find that there's a chapter titled Tolerance. And in that chapter, Emmanuel begins by saying, tolerance is the basis of progress. If we do not practice tolerance, if we're constantly bumping on each other's limitations without renewing ourselves, the relationship becomes unbearable. Or if we abuse somebody else's tolerance too. So that's why it has to be mutual. There are people in a relationship who abuse others' patience, others' tolerance, and keep on being very childish. And sometimes, culturally speaking, that role is allowed, especially in men, to be the one. I know women who say this. Oh, he's gonna wash the dishes. No, I'm gonna help him. He worked all day long. But why can't he work and go home wash the dishes if women do the same and can go home and wash the dishes? So then we are always keeping some part of our relationship in the childish mode. It's not gonna work. We can't abuse women to that point. Or one another. Being always the child. We need to grow to the adult and say, you know what? Mutual respect, mutual tolerance. One day I've heard about a case of somebody who is a spiritist, married and said, oh, I love my wife. She does it all. She works, she cleans, she cooks. She does this, that, and the other. You know what happened? After a while, that woman left that man. And then he became a crying baby. How come? How come? Because he thought she was his mom. A woman is a woman. A spouse is a spouse. A parent is a parent. Right, Raquel Barcelos, Melissa Deline, Raquel Bakeshi, Rosemary Dassis, welcome friends. So, for us, in this prayer by Ribas, there is deep, deep reasoning about it. And when you go to the Gospel According to Spiritism, we would also recommend this chapter that talks about marriage. And let me get, because I never remember the number of the chapter, but it's right here. I'm opening it for you. Ay, ay, ay. Where is it? Hold on. Let me see here. The chapter. Yeah. Chapter 22. Chapter 22. Do not separate what God has joined. The insolubility of marriage and then divorce. And it's a beautiful chapter because it talks about how we value it, but at the same time, how we need to grow more mature to make this work, as Mentor Ribas is saying in his prayer, and I will read it again. A marriage must be renewed every day in the domestic intimacy of a home, where our faults are extinguished through mutual tolerance, so that our souls may find perfect unity before you in the light of love eternal. Beautiful, isn't it? Yes. And it's the end of our study of Illuminated Prayers. As Mentor Ribas says this prayer to Jesus, we say our prayer to Jesus, saying, joy to the world, the Lord is come. Yes, and when Jesus is with us, everything is fine, right? Because Jesus is always passing by for those in need. And that's how we're going to end. Jesus is passing by. Jesus is passing by. And when he comes, everything is fine. Sadness is gone and happiness arrives. And when he comes, everything is fine. Sadness is gone and happiness arrives. Thank you, Chico Xavier. Thank you, Andre Luis. Thank you as well, Emmanuel, for conducting it all to us. So thank you, friends, for being with us during this series. Tomorrow, our dear sunshine is going to begin at night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I study on the spirit cases of the book Heaven and Hell. Phenomenal stories, true accounts, conversations with Kardec, the spirits telling us their own stories. So much learning, so much to prepare ourselves and be friends with death. Once we do it, we live a better life. In these illuminated prayers, we thank God for the illumination. Thank you, friends, for this current of love and your friendship, right? And until next time, we will be back for more, because there is always more to nourish our souls. A big hug, and until then,